Welcome to the Arrivals Podcast. I'm your host, Merelise Wilson, and I have Meg Bowers here with me today.
Hello, hello.
Oh, it's so good to see you. It has been a really long time.
I know. Too long.
I know, too long. I agree. I'm so glad that we were able to make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're doing is so cool. So I just had to let you know. And then you asked if I would be interested in sharing my stories. So we're going to give it a shot.
Awesome. I can't wait. And we have a very special guest here as well, Miss Aubrey.
Yes, she is excited to make her appearance on her first podcast, too.
At 10 whole weeks.
10 whole weeks
Yes.
as of today.
Oh, well, I think let's start perhaps with your first child, your son. So when you were pregnant with him, and how old is he now?
He is 22 months. So we are firmly rocking the 2 under 2.
You're doing a great job. I'm so impressed.
Thank you.
So when you were pregnant with him, what was your kind of thinking about how you wanted your birth to go? Had you thought about it? Did you have preferences, plans?
Yeah. So with my first, I was working. I teach horseback riding lessons and train horses. And so I was kind of dedicated to doing that, through my first trimester. And then when the second trimester hit, I was ready to kind of go all in on researching and figuring out, how this was going to go. I looked into a lot of different things, and I was working with like a midwife practice instead of like a traditional OB office. And one neat thing about their office is they actually share a collective space with a doula practice.
Oh, that's so nice.
A pelvic PT, a breastfeeding, lactation consultant. So I had kind of those resources and those types of, minds around me already.
Mm-hmm.
So we were really hoping to have a unmedicated birth. And
why were you hoping to go that route?
Just based on my research. So first of all, like I am not really a huge drug I don't take Advil or Tylenol very regularly. And, anything I've ever had done like for procedures, like those types of medications just seem to be really kind of hard on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hoping to avoid that if possible.
Mm-hmm.
And also for my recovery, like I was really hoping to get back into riding as soon as I could. So I was doing like some pelvic PT just
while you were pregnant?
While I was pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, kind of to prepare, my body the best I could.
And I'm so interested too with the horseback aspect of it. How long can you ride when you're pregnant? And then how soon can you get back on the horse, literally?
Everybody loves to ask that. So I think it just depends person to person. My midwife was comfortable for me to do it as long as I felt comfortable doing it, which was like for my mental game, really important.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of my physical exercise and also my, therapy all in one.
Yeah.
So I kept riding. I have a older horse that I've had for a long time. We have a, good relationship, and I kept riding him. I mean, I think my last ride was it was January 1st. I rang in the new year on him, and then my son was due March 2nd. So, about 7 months.
Okay. That's awesome.
But I did stop with like the more intense jumping at the end of my first trimester.
And then how quickly can you start riding again postpartum?
I think that depends a lot on your healing.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, if C-section or like more intense tearing would probably take longer.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to get back on before my 6-week follow-up appointment, and my body was like, you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
And it ended up taking a couple months before I felt like I could get on. And then it took so much longer than I expected to feel like I could be balanced on a horse, which I teach a lot of adults that are riding again after years off.
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually really helpful for me to be able to say, okay, this is what it feels like, when you've had some time off, your body's just not working the way it used to.
Mm-hmm.
So
interesting.
I think it really varies person to person.
Yeah. So you were hoping to have an unmedicated birth for all those reasons.
Yep.
You're working with the midwife practice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we're working with a midwife practice and the pelvic floor PT. And pretty early on, we decided that we would want the support of a doula. So my husband, was very supportive of like anything I wanted to try. He also wanted to make sure that I had enough support, during labor, since we had no idea what we were getting into.
Yeah.
So we worked with them, and The pelvic floor PT, she was kind of like the person, I feel like our network kind of just like expanded and put us
Mhm.
in touch with people that worked out really well for us. She put me in touch with the doulas of ATL is their business name,
Mhm.
Courtney and Lauren, and we just connected with them kind of
Yeah.
right away. And they were right there in the same office as where my midwife was, so it was easy to schedule appointments and stuff. So they offered all kinds of things like prenatal yoga and comfort measures classes,
Oh, that's
and
really
we
cool.
did everything. We did classes and I did yoga with them, all the way up until, you know, the a couple days before I gave birth.
That's
So
amazing. And so you said he was born March 7th?
he was born March 8th.
March 8th,
Yep.
okay.
So he was born March 8th. So he was a pretty straightforward pregnancy. He was, as far as I know, head down
Mhm.
early on and stayed that way.
Low risk.
Low risk, yeah, kinda just easy, quick in and out checkups, which was
Yeah.
really great. I only ever had, I think, 1 ultrasound with him,
Oh, yeah.
so it was just, very straightforward in terms of pregnancy. At my 40-week check, they asked if I wanted to do a cervical exam, and I
Mhm.
declined at that time. They were comfortable, I guess, with me going, I think, up to 41, and they
Mhm.
said, "Okay, if you get to 41, we'll have a chat then about what to do next."
That's great. My practice and obviously it's so individual practice to
Mhm.
practice, but my practice really didn't want me to go past 40 weeks.
Yeah, I think it
And
depends a lot, practice practice, you're
yeah.
right.
Yeah, and because of what I had read, I really advocated to go longer, and then I ended up going into labor naturally, but it's I love to hear that there are practices that are
Yeah, they were open to it,
mhm.
as long as everything kept kinda checking out. So, that week, I went to my prenatal yoga class on a Tuesday,
Mhm.
and after that, I kinda started feeling, like, some cramping later
Yeah.
that night, and, like, I noticed it overnight.
Mhm.
Didn't really know what it was. I was like, "Oh, okay, that's weird." The next morning, I woke up kinda the same thing, so that was a Wednesday morning. And I also had some bleeding that morning.
Mhm.
So I let the doula know, "Hey, we've got this going on." We had like a text string between the two of them, my husband and I. And I want to say he was completely working from home at that point. So he
Yeah.
was like ready to jump into action whenever we needed it, which
Yeah.
was really nice. But I just went about my day. I went to the
Yeah.
barn, I watched my good friend ride my horses for me, kind of just kept going. And I got home that afternoon. I realized I sat down, I ate, I drank something, and I was like, I really haven't felt this baby move very much today.
Mhm.
Like, what's going on? I monitored it over a couple hours. I was like, yeah, like I think something's different.
Mhm.
So we called in and they said, we need you to come in so we can check and see.
Mhm.
And so we went and they have a few different offices. We had to go to a different office that could do an ST test for us that day. But I got there and she was like, well, you're over 40 weeks. I can just send you and you can get induced now. And I had never met this,
Yeah.
it was a doctor that was there that was meeting with me. I had not met her before. So I was like, I'm really trying to avoid an
Mhm.
induction. I just heard like if you get induced, you're a lot more likely to have other interventions as
Right.
well.
The waterfall of interventions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were trying to steer clear of that waterfall.
Yeah.
So I was like, do I have any other options? And she was like, well, I can put you on the NST and we can see, if he is moving and kind of what's going on. So I did that. And it turns out I was having contractions. I did
Mm.
not know.
Yeah. A lot of times they stop moving when they're getting ready to be born.
Yeah, and his heart rate and everything was good.
Yeah.
So she's like, "I'm comfortable with you just going home." She was
Okay.
like, "Just know if you change your mind and you get home and you want to be induced, like,
Mhm.
just call me and I'll let them know."
Sounds like your body was doing its thing though,
So
like you were
sh
starting to go into labor.
Yeah, and she did do a cervical exam then,
Mhm.
and I think I was a centimeter dilated, so
Okay.
not very much at all,
Yeah.
and but I do think that kinda got things
Mhm.
moving. She was like, "I
Yeah.
do think you're probably gonna go into labor, like, on your own in the
Yeah.
next day."
And I meant to ask you earlier, why did you decline the cervical exam, the first time?
I I just didn't really feel like I needed the extra information. Like
Yeah.
I was kind of just trying to trust that my body
Mhm.
would do what it needed to do. And this is also a funny piece of information. My sister and I were pregnant at the same time
Oh.
with our both of our firsts, and she was due. I'm probably going to mess up her due date, March 15th, maybe. So a
Okay.
week after Stetson ended up being born. And she went into labor, and had her son March 1st. So she was due a few weeks after, and she ended up
Uh-huh.
having him a couple weeks earlier. And so I was convinced my whole pregnancy that my son was gonna be early.
I was too.
Like,
What is
I
that?
don't
Why
know
is that?
why, and it's, like, maybe just my personality, like, "Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna be on time at least, probably early." But he was not. But I had been convinced the whole time that he was gonna come early, so when I went over my due date, I think I was like, "I just don't think I want the stress of knowing if it's,
Mhm.
about to happen or
Or
not."
not. And
Um,
things can change in an instant, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just and I also knew that it could make things happen, not as naturally, like, just checking could kind of spur things into action.
Mhm.
So I was wanting to let my body kinda do its own thing. But, yeah, when she checked that time, it did definitely kinda kick things off.
Yeah.
So we
I
drove home, we called our doulas, we let them know, like, what was happening.
Mhm.
They encouraged me, like, throughout to make sure I was staying well hydrated and eating.
Mhm.
And so we got a good meal on the way home, and this is pretty funny. I got home and I realized I was like, "Well, no time like the present, but to finish up my thank you notes from my baby shower."
That's true, yeah.
So I sat on my yoga ball and I finished writing some thank you notes, like, while, like, my contractions were starting to pick up, and ate my meal, ate my hamburger. So, yeah, sometime around when I finished my thank you notes, I was like, "I think I need to take a shower, like, things are starting to pick up, like,
Yeah.
this might be my last opportunity to, like, wash my hair for a little while."
Mhm.
So I hopped in the shower, and when I got out, it was, like, game on.
Yeah.
I was definitely having some contractions. I, it was interesting, like, I'll talk about the difference between my contractions with my first and my second, but with my first labor, I felt like they were kinda starting down my tailbone, and it
Mm.
was like I was getting just, like, a surge of electricity
Yeah.
almost. It was not what I thought they would feel like, not that you really can know ahead of time, but,
But you kind of think with the baby, you're gonna feel something in the front, not, the front of your stomach or,
yeah,
even your vagina, but not necessarily your
right.
tailbone, yeah.
And I did know, like, based on, like, just external exam that our midwife had thought he was on the right side of my body and facing up, like, not fully sunny side up, but, like, kinda diagonal across my
Mhm.
body.
Mhm.
And again, like, my research and my reading on different people's stories, I knew that that could possibly make him have, like, a longer path to being delivered because you have
Mm.
to turn and rotate more.
I think it's something to do with they don't when they're positioned like that, they don't put enough direct pressure on your
Okay,
cervix, so
okay.
sometimes it can take longer to dilate, harder to move through the birth canal.
That definitely adds up with what ended up
Yeah.
going down. But anyway, my contractions, yeah, they were feeling just, like, super sharp kind
Mm.
of pretty early on.
Mhm.
And I knew that I might have a pretty long labor because of, what you're saying, and also it's my first. So I had a TENS unit that
Mhm.
we had gotten from our doula. And so I strapped that on after I got out of the shower and, like, started trying to figure out how to use that.
Yeah. Can you tell people what the TINS unit is? I
Oh,
I feel like a lot of practices don't talk about it, but
okay, I
it's a
guess
really
they have
cool.
these little, like, stick-on trobes that you go on your back, and then it has, like, some wires that connect to, like, a handheld unit, and it's like little pulses
Mhm.
almost is what it feels like, and it also gives you the option to kinda, like, press and hold, so, like, when I would go I played around with it, so I used it, I think, pretty much until he was born. I mean, I had that thing on for a long
Yeah.
time. And, so I kinda played around with the timing of it, and, like, I'd press and hold the button to kinda, like, it almost gives you kinda like if you were holding a comb and squeezing
Mm.
a comb, it
Mhm.
gives you, like,
A distraction.
attention, yeah, on pressure or, like, a sensation somewhere else on your body,
Yeah.
I think is kinda how, like, it doesn't hurt by any
Mhm.
means, but it's definitely, like, it's enough to get your attention and kinda
Yeah.
distract you. And it also feels kinda like a little bit of a massage
Mm.
almost, so
Yeah.
it's, it was a good, it really helped me with that labor, and basically for the rest of the time that we were at home, I was over a ball that was on the bed, like a
Mhm.
yoga ball on my bed, had the TENS unit on my back and kinda was just swaying. I tried some other positions and it just, like, I couldn't really handle it. It wrecked me if I tried another
Yeah.
position. So
Yeah.
we, kept laboring at home for a while. We ended up calling the doulas around midnight. My contractions were like 5:11,
Okay.
and at that point, I was having a harder time, like, feeling like I could stay ahead of it.
Yeah.
My husband was tracking the contractions on an app, and the app had gone from saying, like, "Give the hospital a heads up," to "Leave for the hospital now." So, of course, that was, like, a little alarming to him, I think, and
Yes.
you know, uh, Courtney, she was the doula we worked with our first birth. And she was like, "Well, it's really more about, like, how you're coping and all of this versus, like, what your app says," which was
Yeah.
helpful.
A lot of times 511 is like what the more conservative, like go to the hospital if
Yes.
you definitely want to get an epidural, like go at
Yes.
511.
Yes. So we did know that we wanted to be at the hospital and, like, settled, and our plan always was for Courtney to meet us at the
Yeah.
hospital, not for her to come to our house. I think had she come to our house, we might have decided to try to stay home for longer, but
Yeah.
we did go ahead and go around 1 a.m., and I went to triage. And so my midwife practice, they share their calls with another practice. And so it was somebody I had not met before that
Okay.
checked me in. I was 3 centimeters when I got there. And
Yeah.
I remember feeling super disappointed,
Mm.
like, because it already felt so intense.
Mhm.
I remember feeling like, I don't know how I can continue for 7 more
Yeah.
centimeters with it already feeling this way. So I kind of already mentally said, like, okay, I'm going to consider, some help.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is, so the midwife that checked us in that night, I had never met her then, and I never saw her again until she delivered my daughter.
Wow. She just was popping in and out.
So it was pretty funny. They were both born on a Friday, so maybe that had something to do with
Yeah.
it. So we got there, then we transferred to our room, and I do remember, like, I don't remember a whole lot from that period, like, overnight from, like, 1 a.m. until morning. It's like, kinda I just blacked out. Like, I think we were doing the same thing. I was trying to hold off on getting an
Yeah.
epidural, where at that point, we were just talking about, any kind of medical intervention to help get some rest. I do remember people coming in pretty frequently to check on me because I think I was pretty loud.
I
So
felt that way too. I know.
so it was pretty loud. So they were coming in to make sure, like, "Are you sure you don't want, like, new medication yet?"
Did they offer you or did you consider anything before an epidural like fentanyl or
We did, yeah, and ultimately, I decided against it because I didn't know. So even if I did get some rest, I wasn't sure, like, when I came off of whatever, temporary medication,
Mhm.
you know, if I had progressed and I was about to go through a transition, I wasn't sure at that point, like, with how intense things were only at 3 centimeters, if I came off the medication and then suddenly was about to go through a transition, if it was pain that I was going to want to have to
Mhm.
face at that point,
Yeah.
and maybe still want an epidural and then it possibly being too late.
Yeah.
So I got an epidural at 7,
And is
and
your doula here at this point?
she was not.
Okay.
And I think in hindsight, I mean, she was amazing. She was like, "I am here for you guys." I didn't know any, like,
Mhm.
my husband was handling all the communication, of course. So but he was telling me she was happy to come in, happy to support us. And I was just trying to be, like, courteous. You know what I
I
mean? Like, I
know.
was
I
like, "I'm,
know.
we're good. We're okay. Like, you save your energy."
Yeah.
Where I could have totally leaned into her more
Yeah.
earlier. And I think it would have, I wasn't comfortable being that open with
Mhm.
somebody yet, and I mean, I think that's something that, like, birth completely changed about me
Oh,
is, like,
yeah.
having to be willing to be open. Yeah, 'cause you don't have another choice.
No, there's no modesty in birth.
But I do think, like, I was really trying to, like, hunker down and, like, hang on as long as I could
Mhm.
without bringing other people into the mix. Just trying to be considerate of their time, for as crazy as that sounds. I
Yeah.
mean, she was more than willing to come in. Probably thinks we were crazy for not having her come
She's like, "This is
sooner.
my job."
So, yeah, no, she was not there. Yeah, I got the epidural around 7.
Did they check you to see how far along you were at that point?
Yeah, I was 6 centimeters. So we
Okay.
did pretty good work
Yeah, that's
from, like, the
amazing.
overnight, whatever period of time I blacked out during.
And how long had it been? Remind
So
me.
1 a.m. was when we got into our room,
Okay.
and 7 a.m.
Okay, so 6 hours. Wow.
So we were thinking, okay, if that's, like, the rate we're going, this baby will be here, like, people kept telling us, like, around lunchtime you'll have a
Yeah.
baby. So I was like, okay, we'll get some rest. And my epidural was really good. Like, I was able to still feel my legs, move my legs a
Oh, that's
little,
awesome.
get some rest, and also my husband was able to get some rest,
Yeah.
and I kept making sure I was like, "Are you eating? You have to keep eating." So I was checking on him, making sure he
Oh.
was like, "You have to hydrate." But our doula came around noon, and like I said, I mean, I wish I had leaned into her sooner. Like, she was definitely a breath of fresh air. She came
Mhm.
in and we talked about, like, having some mood lighting. She hung her twinkle lights
Oh.
and, like,
Yeah.
just kinda was a calming presence. And then if anybody would come into the room, they kinda recognized, like, "Okay, this is the vibe.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna bring that energy in," which was
That's
really
so nice.
helpful. So, yeah, we kinda just hung out like that. She did some, like, hands-on, massage, which
Mhm.
was just so helpful and, like, relaxation, also, helping position the baby a little.
Was she trying to kind of manipulate you into different positions?
Yeah, so she was moving me. I think I had been mostly reclined since I'd had the epidural,
Mhm.
and she had me, like, sit up a little bit more in, like, a throne position to help the
Okay.
baby move down.
Yeah.
And, we had, like, periodic visits, of course, and the next note I had was when they checked me next, I was, like, 8 or 9 centimeters,
Okay.
and we decided to go ahead and do, like, a membrane rupture at that point,
Mm,
and my
mhm.
water had not broken up to this point.
Yeah.
So we did that, and around that time, around 2 o'clock, I was 8 centimeters, and that's when they did the membrane rupture.
So it really slowed down after you got that epidural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really did. It was crawling.
Yeah.
So we did a peanut ball, and that was part of the reason we decided to go ahead and do the membrane rupture
Yeah.
was to help, like, get things going. We had, like, a peanut ball and, like, they were moving me from side to side. They did notice, like, during one of those movements that there was some meconium. Is
Mhm.
that how you say it?
Meconium,
Yep.
yeah.
So that was just something they were like, "Okay, this is something to keep an eye on." I guess
Mhm.
it can be a sign of, baby and being a little bit of distress.
It can be,
Um,
yes. Not always, but
Not
yeah.
always. So, yeah, I was kinda just changing positions. I'm taking a look at my notes here because this was just, like, kind of a hazy time
Yeah.
period between the epidural, and I was just tired at this point. We
Yeah.
had been doing this for a day and a half.
Yeah.
So, they did notice that when I was, rotating from side to side that, I was hooked up to a monitor, of course. They had the baby's heart rate on the monitor, that his heart rate was going down in certain positions.
Mhm.
So, that was a little bit scary. Like, occasionally, like, a team would, like, rush in and be like, "You can't lay like that. You need to do this."
Yeah.
And so, like, they really wanted me on my back. Like, that's where it seemed like he was the most stable,
Mm,
and that was hard because I was like, "I'm trying to, like, keep moving a little
right.
to keep things going." So, around 9:30 that night, so this is on March 7th, around 9:30, they came in and I was fully dilated,
So you're
and
almost at 24 hours, well, I guess 20 hours or so since you got to the hospital.
yeah, that's right. So they said, "Okay, you're fully dilated, like, let's do some practice pushing."
Mhm.
And when I did that, they noticed that I had a cervical lip,
Mhm.
and the midwife was like, "Not yet, like, we're
Yeah.
gonna give it a rest."
I know that sometimes if you push when you have a cervical lip, it can cause your cervix to swell, and you can
Okay.
actually you can close it. You can reverse your dilation.
I wonder if that's what was happening then,
Yeah.
yeah, because I did some pushing, and I wanna say we did it for, like, maybe 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So, like, they were thinking it was going to be, go time, and
Mhm.
when they came in, there were, like, 12 people in the room, and
I know, it's so
they were
wild.
bright light.
Yeah.
So I think the combination of, like, the cervical lip and, like, I was completely, freaked out by how
Yeah.
many people came in to my nice cozy mood lighting.
I know. Did your doula say anything like, "Can we turn the lights
She
down?"
did,
That's
yeah.
great.
She was
That's so
like
nice.
she did end up following the midwife out into the hallway
Mm,
and, like, kinda talk to her about something,
good. That's exactly what they're supposed to. That's
Yes.
awesome.
So they had, a conversation about, the possibility of Pitocin
Mhm.
since I had been, like, laboring for so long and
Yeah.
things had slowed down a little, and then, I'd had the practice pushing, and so we started Pitocin. And I think also, like, I was very worried about, and I'm not sure I even vocalized this, but I was very worried about, like, going this long and then it ending in a C-section,
Yeah.
because I was
Mhm.
like, that is like a double whammy, having that
Mhm.
long of a labor and then also having a recovery from the C-section. So I was game to do the Pitocin,
Mhm.
and they did it very low.
So had your
So,
contractions kind of subsided a little bit?
yeah, I think that was part of the problem. Like, when I was trying to push, I wasn't connecting with the
Mhm.
contractions because I couldn't feel
Yeah,
anything. Like,
yeah.
and that was something when I did my pelvic floor therapy, like, part of what I practiced with her was pushing techniques
Mm.
for an unmedicated birth as well as for a medicated birth.
Oh, that's so
Um,
cool. I've never heard of that.
yeah, she was amazing. I worked with Ravel
Oh,
therapy
I
and,
love
for
Bella's
that.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Actually,
she
she's gonna come on the podcast, Dr. Amy is.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh, great. So, yeah, she and I don't think I would have been able to have vaginal birth truthfully without
Mm.
knowing what I knew from her.
Mhm. That's awesome.
Like, I yeah, so I was able to kind of figure once I did start pushing, like, I was able to figure it out, kinda connecting back to, like, my memory from what she taught me.
I'm curious, what do they recommend you do when you have an epidural? What's the difference in pushing or
So,
tips?
I don't know if it's, like, a difference in how you push, but so it's optional when you do pelvic floor therapy to do internal exams as
Mhm.
well, and my pelvic floor, probably from riding horses, was
Mhm.
super tight.
Mm, mhm.
And so she had done, like, some internal release,
Mhm.
like, and I can't remember what type of tissues they were, but, like,
Like trigger point.
trigger points, yeah,
Mhm.
that were, like, connected all the way over to my hips.
I know, it's so wild.
It was crazy. And it was very painful until she kind of was able to work through it. So it was
Yeah.
just like, I mean, yeah, internal therapy. And so while she would do that in a session and then
Mhm.
also like internally say, okay, this is the area you have to push from.
Oh, cool.
So, and like have me practice doing pushes, while she was
Yeah.
doing an internal exam.
Yeah.
Sounds crazy.
No, I did it. I
But
did, yeah. I've
that
had
way, like she could feel if I was using the right area.
yeah, that's very cool.
So it was really neat to be able to have that feedback, I think, on
Yes.
how it should, because I couldn't feel anything. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I got to be able to, like, even though I couldn't feel those muscle groups or, different
Mhm.
areas, like, I think the memory of being able to connect with it
Being able
ahead
to
of
visualize
time,
it.
yeah, being able to
Mhm.
visualize it enabled me to do it even though I couldn't feel it.
Yeah.
So that was really, really helpful.
Yeah, I've never heard that. That's very cool.
It was something that I did not think I would be interested in doing, and then I started doing, like, the pelvic floor therapy, and I was like, I don't know anything about this, like, I have to know more now.
Yeah.
This is fascinating."
I'm a huge advocate.
So,
Huge fan.
yeah, I
Pelvic
saw
floor
her
therapy is amazing.
before and after my first
That's
pregnancy.
awesome.
Okay, so we did the practice pushing, and then, they said not yet, us possibly doing a vacuum,
Mm.
and that was something also I was trying to avoid,
Mhm.
and I think that really just, like, I mean, it made me mad and it kinda, like, lit a fire in me
Yeah.
where I'd, like, really kinda just been, like, very tired and discouraged feeling. Hearing that,
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, no, we're
Yeah.
going."
You're like, this is
So,
game on."
I started pushing and, one of the notes I had was it was really interesting, like, I had one of the hospital's nurses, like, on one side I was on my back, which I did not want to be, and I kept asking to be on my side,
Mm,
but every time I would get on my side, the baby's heart rate would drop, and it was just, they weren't comfortable, so I was on my
mhm,
back, and I had one nurse on one side, my husband was up, by my shoulder, and then my doula was on my left side with my left leg, and the hospital's nurse and the doula had, like, such different feel, like, the hospital's nurse was, like, very, like, drill sergeant,
right.
like, football coach, like, "Okay, we can do this, 1, 2,"
Yeah,
like and she was like, "Okay," just soft touch and
right,
quiet, so it was
right.
interesting. I remember, like, feeling, like, just such an imbalance there, it was funny.
That is, yeah.
So I was pushing, for an hour,
Mhm. This is the
45
second
minutes,
round
and this is the
pushing.
second round of
Yeah.
pushing. Yeah, so I think 45 minutes, an hour in, I was
Mhm,
just like, everybody kept saying, "You're almost there. Like, you
mhm.
can do it. You're almost there. Like, you're almost to the finish line." I just stopped believing it at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
I was like, "Y'all, I am tired." Like,
and because you can't feel any
couldn't feel
progress.
it. They offered a mirror,
Mhm.
and I think me today would have said yes.
Yeah.
Me then could not handle, I was not interested.
Mm.
One other funny thing, my midwife, Ellen, so she was my favorite midwife at the practice that I
Uh-huh.
was working with, and when I checked in, it was the midwife from the other practice, and
Mhm.
so I was so excited. They told me, they're like, "Ellen will be here tomorrow," and so I was like, "Okay, we'll do this with Ellen, that'll be great." But she wears these, like, really big glasses,
Uh-huh.
and so even though I declined the mirror, like, they had all these lights,
Yes.
like, and
I think I can see where this is
I could
going.
see her face just lighting up, and I could see, like, in the reflection of her big lenses,
That's
like,
so
a little
funny.
bit. So even though I didn't have, like, the full-on mirror, like, I had some sort of blurry vision of what was happening. It
That's
was funny.
hilarious. I feel like that's probably forever just,
Yeah.
like,
And, like, I
burned
could
into your brain.
see, I could see the moment, the look on her face, like, when he was about to be born, because she was
Yeah.
like, "Aha." Her face kinda, like, lit up a little.
Yeah.
And so, at some point, my husband, he was like, "Okay, I gotta take matters in my own hands here." So he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna see, like, what's going on."
Okay, I love
And
it.
so he, like, dove in, and that had been something we were probably going to avoid.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, no." He's like, "I can really see, like, you
He's
should
like,
reach
"There."
down here and feel." So I did. I could feel, feel his head.
Oh, that's so
And I was
cool.
like, "Okay, I really," but that kind of, like, really made me feel like I could do it
Gave
at
you some
that point.
energy.
Yeah, it gave me
Mhm.
energy. And so he was born at 1:33 in the morning,
Mm. Almost
at
24 hours after you checked in.
almost 24 hours after we checked in, and he had a very tight nuchal cord and thick meconium.
Mm.
So they took him over. He was on my chest,
Mhm.
and then my husband cut the cord,
Mhm.
and which again we weren't sure if that was going to happen. We kind of just were. We weren't sure, and
Yeah.
then he's like, "Oh yeah, I got it."
Yeah.
I looked, and now I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So, and then they took him over to the warmer.
Did you do delayed cord clamping or?
We tried to, but they were wanting to get his, like, suction
Mhm.
cleared.
Mhm.
That had been something I requested, and then at that point, like, I couldn't have even told you what day it was.
I
I was so
know.
out of it
I
that
know.
I don't know how long he was on me.
Yeah.
I think probably a minute, and then they took him over to do they had to suction out quite a
Mhm.
bit, I think. So, yeah, I had a minor tear, first-degree tear, and one thing, like, I wasn't prepared for was how my body was gonna feel after. Like, I started shaking completely uncontrollably.
Mm.
Like, I had my feet, like, they were starting to do, like, my repairs and everything, and I had my
Mhm.
feet up, and I was just, like, I mean, shaking like a leaf.
Yeah.
And I thought it was because I was, like, worried about the stitching, and so I,
Mhm.
like, wanted my epidural higher at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was born.
What was your recovery like postpartum with him?
I was just wildly unprepared for how I was gonna feel postpartum. I was really lucky, so I had planned on breastfeeding, and he did latch. I later ended up figuring out he had a tongue tie and a lip
Mm.
tie, so that was like a whole string of things.
Mhm.
But it made nursing pretty painful early on. I knew that was, like, a possibility that it could be painful,
Mhm.
so I didn't really think too much about it. But, I think with that, like, we had a lot of appointments, a lot of lactation appointments and consults for him. So I stayed really busy, but my body was just so out of it. I was in probably the best shape of my life going into the pregnancy in terms of fitness, and I'd really been paying attention to preparing my body for labor, and I hadn't thought as much about preparing my body for recovery, I guess.
Mhm.
And I'm a pretty private person, so I had not really lined up a whole lot of help for us postpartum. I was like,
Yeah.
"No, it'll just be my husband and, my son Stetson and I." And I I think maybe from my labor being long and pushing for a long time,
Mhm.
I was struggling to walk for a while, like,
Wow.
way longer than I thought would be normal. Yeah, even just getting through my house felt really tricky for a couple weeks.
Did you flag that with your midwife in any of your follow-ups?
I didn't, I had my 6-week, appointment scheduled, and I remember even when I went to that, like, it felt really hard to get, like, in and
Mm.
out of the office,
Mhm.
but I didn't know it wasn't normal.
Right.
So, I wasn't really concerned about it, it was just very
Inconvenient.
surprising, yeah,
Mhm.
inconvenient, and I think it weighed a lot on me mentally too, that because what I do every day is outside and active, that I wasn't
Mhm.
able to get back to that on a timeline that I thought lined up with my
Right.
life before,
Right. What you had envisioned.
with what I envisioned. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it was, and, when I in the weeks immediately, after, I felt like mentally pretty good, except
Mhm.
for the fact that I kind of kept having like flashbacks to pushing and birth. And they weren't very positive. It was
Mm.
like I remember feeling really scared in my flashback. So I think I was having a little bit of PTSD from the
Yeah.
experience, even though it ended super positively. I had a healthy baby.
Mhm.
I didn't have any real complications. Like it just, it was surprising. And it ended up developing into some postpartum depression.
Mhm.
And, it was something I read a lot about ahead of time.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh, that won't be me." And then I could kinda see it was happening, and again, I
Mhm.
was like, "That's not me."
Yeah.
We're good. I see it's happening, so,
Right.
like, it'll be okay.
Yes.
And, that's something I didn't really address, and I regret that because there were months where it just felt kinda foggy,
Yeah.
and because it was hard for me to get back into my level of activity from before, I just didn't feel like myself for a long time.
Mhm.
So,
I definitely relate to that
yeah.
100%. And I think that feeling of too just thinking, surely tomorrow it'll be better, or the next day, or the next day.
Yeah.
And like any day it's going to turn around now and I'm going to feel quote unquote normal again.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It was such a weird, dichotomy between wanting to do everything for my son
Hmm.
myself and then also feeling like I wanted to do something for myself, and I felt guilty for both.
Yes.
It was so weird.
Yes.
So,
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Like that feeling of wanting so desperately to be away from them, but
yeah,
also
yeah.
when you're away, just missing them
Yeah,
horribly.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, it is just, it's a wild ride. And that drop in hormones postpartum is so real.
yeah,
And, like I always think about even the strongest, mentally strongest person with the strongest mental fortitude sometimes can't fight science. And a lot of times that's
yeah,
just what it is.
yeah,
It's you can have everything going right and have a perfectly healthy baby, a beautiful house, whatever. And your body has just experienced this major scientific hormonal
right,
change.
right.
And yeah,
I
I
think
know.
also because he was breastfeeding and nursing, I think that played a little bit into my hormones
Hmm.
because it lasted, but it started subsiding as he started weaning.
Mm,
My hormones started kinda tapering off
yeah.
again, so
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, I feel like that's a good way to segue into
Segue.
because why did he stop weaning?
Okay, so my son stopped or started weaning, weaning a little bit naturally around a year old, and I had heard it was possible to get pregnant, and my I will say my midwife had asked us, about, like, our plan for contraception if we
Mhm.
wanted to and all of that. She has Southern accent. She's like, "So, we really want you to be, 18 months before we're thinking about baby number 2." I was like, "Okay, Ellen." But I did get pregnant. I was still nursing my son, exclusively. He had started solids, of course, before he was a year, but we found out that I was pregnant with my daughter the night before his first birthday.
Wow.
So that was a pretty wild
Happy
couple days.
birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. I was like, "Happy birthday, we got you a sister."
Yeah.
So my son was born March 8th,
Mhm.
2024. We found out I was pregnant March 7th, 2025.
Wow.
So, and, you know, I think because it was so new, like, just recent in our minds, like, he hadn't even been walking yet. We're like,
Right.
"How on earth are we gonna be responsible for another
I
baby?"
know.
It was kind of crazy to think about. And, life was just so much busier,
Yeah.
with that pregnancy, and,
That's a very busy age for toddlers,
yeah.
and mine were farther apart, but I can't imagine being very pregnant and chasing a 18-month-old.
So, yeah, I really didn't have a whole I didn't have a whole lot of time to really even think about being pregnant,
Yeah.
truthfully, until, I was so pregnant I couldn't ignore it.
Mhm.
And that happened sooner this
Yes,
time.
everything happens sooner with the
And
second pregnancy.
so I was in my second trimester or through summer. At this point, I'm still teaching lessons. I'm
Mhm.
still trying to ride horses very poorly because I'm so pregnant and it's so hot.
Yeah.
It's like it felt like the hottest summer ever.
Yeah.
And I have a toddler. So, and he, at this time, I was taking care of him full time. Like my husband has his own practice. So he would watch him in the evenings when I
Mhm.
would go teach. but he was with me during the whole day.
Wow.
So I had him for, most of the day.
Being a toddler parent is very physical.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So, and also around this time, we decided it would be a great idea to renovate our house. So we moved out of our house at the beginning of September, and I was due with my daughter the beginning of November.
Mhm.
So we were like, we had our contractors on a tight timeline. We lived in an Airbnb for a month,
Oh my
and then
god.
they weren't quite done. So we moved into a hotel room for a week.
Oh, geez.
And I was 8 months pregnant, and we had a, 1-year old. So that felt pretty crazy.
Yeah. That's quite exciting last trimester.
And I was working, full time or like teaching my full schedule, which
Mhm.
was Monday through Thursday evenings. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. And so with my son, I kind of like dove in and like did a whole bunch of research,
Mhm.
and I felt like I really prepared for his, you know, really prepared for my pregnancy, really prepared for his birth. And this time I didn't have time, and I was like, "You know what? Like, I did all the research last time and it was still super rough, so I'm just gonna be whatever happens, happens."
Right.
And I kind of had that vibe throughout the whole pregnancy. Like, I was definitely way more relaxed about it,
Yeah.
but I was also open to basically anything. I thought I probably still wanted to avoid a C-section, but she was consistently transverse or breech up until the very end. So
And how could you tell? Was it just they would feel your stomach during?
so they did the fundal height measurement. So, and a couple times, so I would be measuring fine and
Mhm.
then I would be measuring small.
Mhm.
And so I can't remember how many ultrasounds I had with her, several. Like, I mean, it seemed like almost every other appointment I had one
Yeah.
because I would measure small and they were worried about growth. But it was because they could feel that
Mhm.
she was, where the head was, and they could
Yeah.
feel that she was sideways. So
Yeah.
they thought, like, probably that's why I was measuring
Mhm.
small, but they wanted to check.
They should have been measuring you, like, horizontally
I
instead of
know,
vertically.
I know. So I would get an ultrasound. So we had, a lot of pictures of her. And yeah, she would alter. I think on one ultrasound, she was head down. We're like, okay, great.
Yeah.
And then she didn't stay that way. The next
Oh,
visit, she was transverse again.
busy lady.
So yeah, she was just on the move.
Could you feel her moving a lot in your stomach? But did she feel more active than your son?
I felt like with her, I would feel really big movements, which was probably her
Probably her.
moving.
Mhm.
But with my son, with Stetson, I felt like I could feel more constant kicking.
Yeah.
And it was definitely different. Like, because she was
Shifting her whole body.
shifting her whole body, it felt like, yeah, like a whale was moving through
Yeah.
me. So yeah, I didn't really think too much about my pregnancy with her, like, and how I wanted things to go this time
Mhm.
until like 38 weeks or so.
Were you starting to, I don't know if panic is the right word, but just given that you
Weren't living in my house.
yeah, weren't living in your house. You were open, but you definitely, I feel like, have tendencies more towards like vaginal, more natural if you can.
Mhm.
Were you starting to kind of panic about her being breech and what you were going to do, or were you
Probably
just really like had you surrendered? Sounds like maybe
Probably
surrendered.
I think probably like, I think, yes, mostly I had surrendered, but also, like, I wouldn't let anybody know, but I was definitely panicking a little bit
Yeah,
on the inside.
yeah,
It was a little bit more complicated this time, like, we had to line up, people to be there to be for my son, like, I couldn't just get up and go to the
right.
hospital. I was, like, definitely concerned about who would be able to be there for him, so we had to line up, those things for my
Hmm.
parents to come in town and stay with us, or my husband's aunt to be able to come in town,
Yeah.
and so it just felt like a lot more moving pieces had to
Hmm.
go right. So, like, almost the idea of having something scheduled seemed easier.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, that would be easier. But wait, that's really probably not what I want. But
Hmm.
it would be, ugh, it would be easier.
Yeah.
So I was almost okay. I was like, well, if she stays breech, it just is what it
Hmm.
is, and we'll have to schedule something. And so my midwife had said if I wanted to try to do an ECV, I needed to get on for a consult to that. So, and I had read that those could be possibly very painful.
Yeah. I've heard that too. I knew one person who did one and it was really painful and didn't.
Didn't work.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think part of their concern, so she had been head down, so they knew that she could be head down, which was
Hmm.
good.
Right.
But part of their concern was because she was moving so frequently, even if they did flip her, they would want to induce me soon after, so they
Right.
knew she would be head down. So I had to get the ECV done, I think they said by 39 weeks.
Mhm.
So I'm talking about now instead of going all the way to 40, which was like my goal for
Mhm.
sure with my son, possibly scheduling something, for before if I wanted to try to have her vaginally. Anyway, it was a lot of like pieces. So I was telling our doula, so we promptly signed up our doula,
The same one?
yeah, the same
Yeah.
ones. We were like, let's just go with what we know. It was so
Yeah.
great. So we, got them on board for round two. And they said, well, we know this midwife that she does fetal positioning and breech release, is what they called it.
Mhm.
And it might be worth, talking to her and seeing if you're a good candidate,
Mhm.
before you do the medical ECV.
Right.
I was like, okay, I'm in.
You're like, "I'll try it, sure."
I'll try it. Yeah. And this point, I was over 38 weeks pregnant. And so she was like, you need to come see me ASAP. Crystal was her name. She wasn't super convenient to me. She's down in Decatur. So it was like a 30 or 40-minute drive from my house. But I was like, okay, it's worth the trip. We'll try this out.
Yeah.
So I had an appointment scheduled with her. And when I got there, she had a Doppler and an ultrasound ready to go. We kind of like caught up on, how things were. And she looked at her on the monitor, and this girl was head down.
Little
So,
rascal,
yep,
man.
little rascal.
Likes to keep
So
things
I
interesting.
think maybe she was just waiting until we got back in our house and I felt more relaxed.
Yeah. Well, and that's so cool. I mean, I wonder if you had known that she was head down before that, if you would have gone to the appointment or
Oh,
canceled it.
no, I would have definitely canceled it.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was so busy trying to get like,
Moved in.
we had to pack up our entire living room and kitchen
Oh my gosh.
to so we still had a pod. We
Yeah.
actually had a pod in our driveway while I was in labor, and my husband left while I was in labor to meet the guy to pick up the pod.
Oh my god.
So, no, I would have definitely not gone to
Yeah.
meet her. The point was, to get her not breech.
Right.
But so I went not knowing. And so she's like, okay, she is head down. I was like, okay, great. I'll just leave now.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, no, like we have some things we can work on. Like, okie dokie. So I had no idea what I was in store for. But the best way I can describe it is it was just like a really deep embodied meditation,
Mhm.
and I think I mentioned I'd been kind of like checked out on this pregnancy.
Mhm.
I just hadn't had the time or really
Energy.
energy to dive into it like I did with Stetson.
And I think too, I've heard feedback when it's your second pregnancy or third or whatever, and you weren't necessarily expecting the timing of the pregnancy,
Yeah,
it wasn't like sometimes I feel like that can feel a little bit, like, surreal or, like, out
out
of
of
body,
control.
out of
Yeah,
control, yeah.
yeah, definitely. So I was like, okay, well, here we go. And she had me, one of the things that she does in preparation for her breech clients is she kind of spends some time thinking about like what colors might represent that specific, woman and her baby that
Mhm,
might be like good for them to visualize. And
mhm.
what she had selected for me, she said was different than like a lot of the normal ones she does for breech
Mm,
deliveries, her breech release. And she thought of me and like blues and purples and
mm.
greens. And she described that as like what she thought of like the gates or the entryway to heaven looking
Oh,
like. So I had this like really like kind of connection with spirituality
yeah.
too. She just kind of kept talking through like how those colors could like play into how you're feeling and
Mm,
gave me just like I mean, I that visualization just got seared into my brain, truthfully,
that's
like,
so
it was
cool.
such a lasting impact to be able to see, like, that celestial looking
Did
image.
she show you anything, or was it just, like, she just
She had a
talked you through
stone.
a stone? Where okay, when you first got there, were you like, "What what is happening?"
So, yeah, there were essences, so I had to take, like, a essence quiz ahead of
Okay.
time, so I had to fill it like a questionnaire. I can't remember what all was on it. I think she identified me as needing, like, oak and something else. So, like, when I got there, we sat down and she was like, "Do you have a water?" And I was like, "I do." She was like, "I'm going to add these essences to
Oh,
your water."
okay, cool.
And I was like, "Okay." And one of them was oak. So, kind of it helped me figure out what themes maybe
Mhm,
I needed to be focused on.
mhm.
And something that she identified pretty early on with only minimal information from my first birth was that I needed to trust and I needed to open up to the process.
Mm.
And so, I think that was just something that she felt like would really help me in the second one.
Mhm.
And another thing she did, she had me like on a mat. And one cool thing about her office is she said the floor was just a very thin layer, like, there was no subflooring or anything like that because
Mm.
she wanted you to feel as connected to the ground as
Mm, mhm.
possible, so the
Grounded.
dirt. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you could feel grounded.
Yeah.
So there was a yoga mat that I was on, and she did, like, some different releases on my body, so, like, hands-on,
Yeah.
things, and, like, really walked me through some different breath work,
Mhm.
like, finding areas that my body carried tension and learning to breathe into that area. And not just, like, send breath there, but, like, to the edge of it
Mm.
and then past the edge,
Mm.
which ended up being really, really important in
Yeah.
my second delivery.
Yeah. So, good
So,
experience.
yeah, great
Not
experience, totally
totally
unexpected,
unique.
totally unique, would recommend,
That's
would
so
do it
cool.
again, had no idea what I was getting
I
into.
love it. I love it.
And that is definitely this labor and delivery all around. Kinda like another interesting thing that I had happen in this pregnancy, I had not, like I said, I had not really been spending as much time thinking about it. I kept seeing like these hawks show up,
Mm.
and I am not a bird person. Like, I'm kind of afraid of birds, but I would see hawks like in my yard, at the barn, when I was riding, in my path. I even
Mhm.
saw a hawk while I was going through the drive-through at Starbucks, not just like in the sky. It landed in front of me, in front of my
Wow.
truck, and just stared at me.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, what does this mean? And I looked into it. Hawks symbolize a couple different things,
Mhm.
but like strength and wisdom,
Mhm.
and also spiritual awareness are some of the
Mm.
things.
I
Um,
love that.
so, yeah, all those things were kinda happening that were, like, symbols. "Hey, you need to get in touch with your body and be open."
Time to check
Yeah,
in,
time to
be in
check in.
tune.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, like, my
Yeah.
dad's side of the family is Native American descent.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's part of why I kinda looked into, like, the different, symbols. My husband got me a book on, like, Native American and, like, hawk meaning to get
Yeah.
for Christmas.
Well, a lot of times they're like aren't they supposed to be like like your spiritual guides from the
Yeah,
other
yeah,
side? Like it's your kinda like your guardian angel.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. So you went to go see Crystal.
I went to go see Crystal.
Miss Aubrey finally had turned head down.
Aubrey was head down, and we were just like, "Okay, let's have her stay that way."
Yeah.
But yeah, I went in for my 39 or 40-week visit, 39-week visit, and they're like, "Okay, yep, she's still, head down, so just keep us posted."
Mhm.
And I kinda all week long, so she was due on the 12th, but kinda all week long, the week prior, I had been having some, like, mild contractions overnight.
Mhm.
So, like, Monday night, I had had some, and then nothing Tuesday, and then, like, again Wednesday, things, but Wednesday night, I could sleep through it, and then Thursday during the day, nothing.
Mhm.
Thursday overnight, I started having contractions again.
Yeah.
And around 2 a.m., they became, like, enough where I was like, "Okay, I need something to do, like, I can't sleep through these, so let's just, time them for something to do." I think I, like, opened up a spreadsheet and was, like, doing some work or
Yeah.
something too,
Just take your mind off it.
take my mind off of it. But what's really nice about, those nights, and this was the week after I had met Crystal, that, I was able to start, like, on my own, kinda, like, in the quiet at night, thinking about the breathing
Mm.
techniques that she had talked to me about.
Mhm.
So I had some practice at that when the contractions were still really mild, and right from the beginning, I noticed that they felt way different than they did with my son.
Mm.
Like, my son, it was, in my back, my
Yeah.
tailbone, like, very kinda shocking feeling, and with this labor, things were they would start, and then they would build, and then they would
Mm.
kind of subside.
Like a wave cresting.
Yep, exactly. So I
Mhm.
was really able to kinda tune in to my breath and thinking about sending my breath to the edge of where that wave was gonna be. You
Mhm.
could kinda, like, think about where it might crest,
Yeah.
and kinda breathe to that place. So I got some practice of that, like, early on by myself. My husband was snoozing, I didn't wanna wake him up or anything.
It's kind of nice those moments when you're first in labor and if like, I don't know, it just feels like it's you guys and no one else
Yeah.
knows and
Yeah, so it was really nice. It was quiet, and come morning, I didn't go back to sleep that night because
yeah.
things, I've tried, but they were things were, picking up enough where I could, think I needed to think about it a little bit. I was fine in between. They were still like 7 and 10 minutes apart,
Mhm.
not super close together.
Mhm.
So I woke up. It was a beautiful day. I got my son up. We had breakfast, kind of did all those things
Yeah.
and just felt fresh and ready to do it,
Uh-huh.
So we let our doula know that I had been having contractions overnight, and my parents had gotten into town the night before.
Mhm.
It was my mom's birthday the day
Aw.
before, so I almost thought she was gonna have a birthday twin earlier in the week.
Aw.
But yeah, I think my body also kinda just was able to relax knowing that they were there and, like, our
Mhm.
plan was coming together, like, they were gonna be able to be there to take care of my son. So they came on over and I kinda once they got there, I kinda just went to the bedroom and, like, got in the groove,
Yeah.
I was in a really good rhythm with my breathing and the
Mhm.
contractions. I put on some music and just was in the zone. I got in and out of the shower. Like, I didn't really utilize the shower with my first except
Uh-huh.
for to get clean. Like, I went
Right.
in, I took
Oh, that was a good toot.
toot
Good
toot.
job, girly.
Your first microphone appearance. Good job, girl. With my son, with my first labor, I showered to shower to get
Yeah.
clean. With this one, I was like, okay, let me like that hot water feels good,
Yeah.
you know. And so our doula came over around noon, and this time our plan quotes was to get to the hospital early. Once
Mhm.
my parents had my son under control, get to the hospital early, get checked in, get an epidural,
Uh-huh.
and just chill.
Yeah.
Just enjoy relaxing and preparing for birth.
Mhm. Were you interested? I know that you had felt like things didn't really go to plan with your first birth, but were you interested in potentially having an unmedicated birth with her since you had thought about it with your son? Or were you just like, epidural worked for me last time, I'm gonna
I was
go for
like,
it?
give me the drugs.
Yeah.
Give me the drugs. Like, if she's still breech, I'm open to a C section.
Mhm.
I was wanting it to feel different this
Yeah.
time. And I had not really let myself consider trying it
Mhm.
again. I kind of assumed I wasn't cut out for it, truthfully,
Mm. Almost
And
self-preservation.
yeah, so I was
Yeah.
like, like it was, let's try something different this time.
Mhm.
And when I met with Crystal, she just made a comment. She was like, if you'd ever be interested in a home birth, you're a pretty good candidate for it. And like, that's all she said. I was like, um, I don't think
Say
I want to
more.
do that. But it did truthfully get kind of the wheels turning.
Yeah.
I remember I got home, I told my husband, I was like, she kinda makes me feel like I could do that,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, that's
Just
so
so
cool.
it did. It just put a little,
Give you a little fire, a little
a
spark back.
little spark, yeah,
Yeah.
that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
So, no, we had planned to get there early, and compared to my first labor, these contractions, I was managing so much better.
Mhm.
So I thought I still had days. Do
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
Well, and I feel like we didn't touch on this much, but you were really having back labor with your first.
yeah, I don't think I had ever put a term to it
Yeah.
until I had my second
Mhm.
because I didn't know any differently.
Right. And back labor oftentimes can happen when a baby is positioned sunny side up, when they're spine to spine with you.
Mhm.
And I haven't experienced it, but I've heard it is excruciating, like next level compared to quote unquote regular labor
Yeah,
pain in the
so
front of your stomach.
it was a very drastic feeling. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm guessing that's what was going on with me with the first
Mhm.
time. It just was so different. It was, I thought, okay, well, that's what's coming next.
Yeah.
I thought that was what was gonna be in store.
Mhm.
So, we were still definitely ahead of the game by getting there while I was, experiencing these. Like, maybe I just didn't even notice this part
Yeah.
the first time around. So, I think I was in the shower this time. So we worked with Courtney the first time. We had the other doula for our second, Lauren, and she's the one that does prenatal yoga. So I had seen her pretty frequently
Mhm.
towards the end of my pregnancy this time. And she came over, I was in the shower and I was managing things well. So when I got out, she was like, "Well, do you want to like go for a walk or and I'm still pretty private, so I didn't really necessarily want my neighbors seeing me, like, having
Yeah.
contractions in the road. So I was like, "No, like, let's do something different." So she's like, "Okay, let's do these, like, side lunges. Let's try to do 5 on each side."
Mhm.
And when she got there, we were just kinda hanging, chatting, and so I
Yeah.
think we were all kinda like, "Okay, this is pretty early, right? Like, if
Right.
I'm able to have this kinda conversation, like, let's figure out how to get things moving."
Yeah.
Because even though I wanted to get there early enough, I still wanted, like, them to accept me. I didn't want them to tell me to go
Right.
home,
Right.
because I wasn't far enough along.
Yeah.
So, I think I did maybe 2 of those side lunges,
Mhm.
and it was just like, I mean, things kicked into gear
Wow.
really fast. I remember, like, the way I was sounding was
Mhm.
different
Mm.
after, like, a couple of those,
Mhm.
and so Lauren looked up at my husband. She's like, "Okay, like, get get the truck." And she, like, kinda just, like, she kinda just, like, mouthed it to him, and he didn't catch it. He was like, "What was that?" And
And
she's
she's
like,
like,
"Get the truck and her bags. Let's go."
doulas know sounds. They
Yeah.
know, like, when they hear a certain sound, I remember that with my second son too, like, they hear a certain sound, and it's something about I don't know if it's a different, like,
Mm.
register or pitch, but they're like, "Oh, this means
Yeah.
something."
He had pulled the truck, like, basically up to our front porch, so I didn't
Yeah.
have to walk very far, which was great. I hugged my mom and my dad bye. My son was sleeping at this point, so he was in his
Oh, yeah,
nap.
what time was this?
I think, let's see, like 2:43 or
Okay.
2:45. Sometimes,
Yeah.
we only live 5 or 6 minutes from the hospital.
Oh,
We're
that's
very
nice.
close,
Yeah.
maybe 10 minutes.
Okay.
And we got in the truck, and I mean, something shifted when we were in the
Mm.
truck. I thought that we were gonna have a baby in the truck,
Wow.
truthfully, like,
Wow.
and I would remember I was mad.
Yeah.
I was like, "This was something I was trying to avoid." Like, I was mad.
Yeah.
I was like, "This was not how this was supposed to go, like, things are catching up too quickly."
Were you feeling the urge to push? Like, is that why you were thinking it was going to happen?
No, but I remember I was looking at, and I didn't know what that felt like
Mm.
because I had an epidural for the
Mhm.
first, so I didn't know if I was or wasn't
Mhm.
experiencing that. I ended up being able to tell later,
Yeah.
but on the way there, I was watching the clock, and not only was there traffic, it was a Friday afternoon, my contractions were a minute or less apart,
Wow.
and so I was like, "I don't know if we're gonna make it," like,
Yeah.
and he was driving crazy, and I remember, like, I was still enjoying the day being beautiful enough to look
Mhm.
out the window, and I saw, like, people walking down the road, and I was like, "I wonder if they know what's going on in here."
Right.
Like,
Your day is
let me
going
just
very
hide back
different.
down. I remember I just kinda, like, hid down, and it was fall, and, like, all the trees were
Oh.
changing, and, every year I have, like, a favorite fall tree, and there's
Uh-huh.
this one, like, I drive the same way to take my son to school. There's, like, a beautiful yellow tree, or there
Mm.
were 3 in a row, and I saw them on our way to the hospital. I was like, "It's just so pretty out,
Yeah.
but I'm so mad that this is happening like this." So, we pulled in, and I'm pretty sure, like, going over the speed bump maybe was what made my water break, or
Yeah.
getting out of the truck. So, I got out of the truck, and I was like, "Oh, I think I maybe, like, am leaking." Like, I
Mhm.
didn't know because my water never broke with
Yeah.
Stetsons. They had to do the artificial rupture. And so, I got out, and my water broken, and it was 3 o'clock on the dot.
Wow. And so was it kind of just like a slow leak? It wasn't like a big gush?
Oh, I mean, no, everything, like, I realized, I was like, "Oh," I was like, because I mean, my pants were, like, complete, yeah,
Okay.
no, I mean,
It was a pretty big.
it was pretty big, and we miraculously got, like, one of the first parking spaces, but I still, like, was having a hard time walking.
He didn't drop you off at the front?
No, no, we didn't, we parked, and then we were like, "We're
You're
going
being
in
very
together."
chill about this.
I don't think, yeah, I mean, I don't think we knew, maybe because we thought with my son, just when things seemed that intense, like, I still had so long with
Yeah.
him, like, we didn't know. So, they ended up getting a wheelchair, and I never thought I would take a wheelchair, but I did, like, I mean, I
Mm.
couldn't walk, and I was, like, sitting on my side,
I
I
was gonna
couldn't
say, yeah.
sit straight down.
Mhm. I felt the same way.
I got in there, and, like, I had tried to pre-register, I thought I had pre-registered, and anyway, they were asking me all these questions, and they're like, "Just get her in a room." So I went in the room, and they were doing their due diligence, making sure I had no allergies and all that. And, like, I mean, just there were so many questions. They were
Yeah.
asking me questions up until she was born, I'm pretty sure.
And so at that point, were you
They
like
checked me. and I was 9 or 10,
Oh my gosh.
and
You did it.
she was
Like
coming,
nothing.
you know.
Yeah.
So they asked me, you know, so funny enough, I said this in talking about my first birth. Oh, we don't
Oh,
want to
no,
talk about
no,
the first birth.
no.
No, it's about me
She's
now.
like, "This is about me."
I got there and she was like, "Are you feeling the urge to push?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, I'm getting an epidural.
Yeah.
Like, we are not doing that. So go ahead and get that paperwork. Like that's what we're doing."
Yeah.
And she was like, "We don't have time for that." And funny enough, it was the midwife that had checked me in for my first experience there. So yeah, we did the same hospital, we did the same like midwives, we did the same, copy and paste.
Yeah.
I was like, "No, we're not doing that. We are go ahead and get the fluids running." She's like, "Your baby is coming. Like, you don't have time for that." And I was like, "No, that's what we're doing." And so my doula kind of stepped in. She was like, "We're going to go ahead and rush it. They'll do the best they can, but running IV fluids takes a
Mhm.
minimum of 45 minutes,
Mhm.
And in my mind, I'm like, "What do you mean we don't have 45 minutes?"
Right.
Like, of course, like, I mean, even though I'm fully dilated, like, we can just wait. Like, it's
Yeah,
not, we'll
totally.
just like not do it
Well,
yet.
yeah.
And they're like, "Well, I mean, you've done the hard part." And I just, I didn't have the experience of pushing the
Mhm.
first time. And so I just didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was like, "No, it must get harder from here."
Mm.
So Lauren, she was proceeding in her, the few minutes she had to go and hang some string lights around the
The
room. Like
doula.
I've never seen anybody hang string lights so
So fast.
quickly. Yeah, she's like, "Now cut the lights. Like we're
Oh.
getting the mood set, okay? We might
Yeah.
only have like 10 minutes here, but we're getting the mood
Oh,
set."
I love that.
She did all that, and I definitely had like a pretty like I kind of hit like oh my gosh, I'm freaked out. Like
Mm.
this was not what I wanted to do. Like I'm
Mhm.
not prepared to do this
Mhm.
moment, where like I started having really shallow breathing, just
Mm.
kind of freaked out,
Yeah.
you know. And she looked at me and she was like, "No, like you can do this." She was like, "You are doing it."
Mhm.
And like it kind of felt like in the moment she was like, you have to do this. But what she meant was you're already doing
Yes.
it. Like you're
It is
already doing
happening.
it. Like you've made it this far, you're already doing it.
Mhm.
And Jill was the midwife. I remember she kind of looked at me. Just got serious with me for a second. She was like, "Okay, we're doing all the things to prep your epidural, but
Yeah.
on the chance that you feel like you need to push, here's what we do."
Mhm.
She's like, and kind of just gave me a straight up talk. And
That's nice that they were still trying to kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, humor you. I feel like that
yes,
probably helped
it
your
did.
panic because
Yeah,
you kind of were thinking, okay, like this might, still happen,
100%.
as opposed to if they'd just been like, listen, honey, like this isn't,
Yeah,
get
no, they
ready.
were they were trying to humor me for
Yes.
sure. I think when I got there and she told me that, and I was like, "Oh no, like that's not how this is supposed to go." She just assumed that since I showed up like that, that's what I was hoping to hear,
Mm,
I think.
mhm,
And she was
mhm.
like, "Most people are excited when I tell them like it's time to push."
Yeah.
Like so at some point during the way, like during a crazy contraction, I remember I kind of like locked eyes with my husband and he was like I was laying on my left side.
Mhm.
He was holding my hand and I like sunk my teeth into him. And I saw him, he like set his jaw and he just was like,
I'm gonna take it.
he just shook his head like just a little bit. He was like, "Don't you do that."
I bit my husband in my
I
first labor.
remember
Yeah.
hearing you say that. Oh, so he messed with me. He's like, "I still have a scar." I didn't break the skin,
Poor baby.
but I was like, "Well, that's the worst that happens.
Yeah, right.
Sorry." So anyway, at some point along the way, yeah, I just did. We got there at 3. I don't know how long it took us to get into the room.
So, did you know for sure that she was head down at that point? Had you?
Oh, yeah. We were pretty sure she had stayed head down, but so I did see Crystal, the midwife, that confirmed her positioning. And then I had an ECV consultation already planned for the day after my meeting with Crystal.
Mhm.
So I attended that anyway. And it was pointless because he confirmed that she was head down again the second day in a
Yeah.
row. But I wanted the option in case she turned.
Yeah.
And he did tell me, he was like, "Make sure when you go to the hospital, for delivery, that you have them confirm she's head down." And so here I am. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you. I'm supposed like, you're supposed to confirm she's head down because she's been breached." And they're like, what?
They're like, "I'm sorry. Come again? We don't have time for that either."
So they're like, no, I think we see her head.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're okay. So yeah, pushing was a lot different this time around because I
Mhm.
could feel what was happening.
Mhm.
Like throughout the experience leading up, like the couple weeks before, I had definitely spent some time like meditating and praying and thinking about like how I wanted it to feel in that moment because
Mm.
it felt kind of scary with my son,
Mhm.
and I just felt like I was totally wrapped up and like my soul wasn't even in my body.
Mm.
I remember I was on my left side and I was kind of just like looking up to the right into the
Yeah.
corner, and I felt like I was in this like heavenly place,
Mm.
where I could see like the colors that
Mm.
were important, in
Yeah.
terms of my visualization. And I mean, I just felt like I was being held up there, honestly. I was just up there kind of watching it play out
Mm.
almost, where like I could still feel what was happening, but it wasn't in a place of fear. Like I just
Mhm.
felt like, I don't know, you feel like God's got you,
Mhm.
you know?
Oh, got chills.
So
Yeah.
it was really neat. I didn't have that kind of like connection in
Mhm.
my first.
Yeah.
And I did eventually have the urge to push.
Mhm.
I knew exactly what they meant when they said, you will know.
Yeah.
And I did. And I think 3 pushes and she was born.
Wow.
I
Just
reached down
like
at some
that.
point and felt like her head, and then on a separate contraction, the rest of her body came.
Came out,
Yeah.
and then she was here.
Yeah.
And then
She
did
was
you get
here.
to have, like, golden hour with her?
So she came immediately onto my chest, and we were hoping to like let her stay like that. And I did notice, like, so she cried right away,
Mhm.
but it sounded kind of gurgly sounding.
Mm.
So they cut the cord. When they heard that, they pretty much
Mm.
were like, we got to take her.
Mhm.
And I was so just like overcome with emotion at that
Mhm.
point and, kind of riding a high of like,
Mhm.
I cannot believe we just did that.
Yes.
Like that's so cool. Like that's so redemptive. That's
Yeah.
what we were hoping for. And, I can't believe I got to experience that.
Mhm.
But so they took her over to the warmer. And she had to have some breathing
Mm.
treatments. I didn't really know what was going on because you know, I had a small tear again, so they were about
Mhm.
to do, that. But my husband was over with her, and he was like getting kind of nervous.
Yeah.
And I think he was trying to kind of keep his back to me, so I couldn't really tell.
Mhm.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're just working on her a little,
Mm.
trying to get her breathing situated."
It sounds so similar to my first.
Yeah. So she ended up getting to come back over after that. Yeah, she didn't have to go to the NICU,
That's
thankfully.
good.
Yeah.
Did she just
Uh,
have a little fluid in her lungs?
yeah. And then she also had like some meconium
Mhm.
as well. I think when my water broke, they could tell.
Mhm.
I think maybe they said because her like labor or her, entry was so much quicker that like sometimes they don't
Mhm.
breathe quite as well on entry.
I've heard that too sometimes when it's a really fast birth. So sometimes labor squeezes, like, the fluid out of their lungs, and if
Yeah.
you have a really fast birth, there isn't that, like, opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, it just kinda comes out, so that could have been it
Yeah.
too.
So the one thing that was like a little bit more complicated for her was we have different blood types.
Mm.
And so they had to monitor her bilirubin levels. She had some jaundice.
Mhm.
So she was Coombs positive. So we had like some additional testing we had to do for that. They did so many heel pricks.
Oh, I know,
It's
I've heard
sad.
that, and so sad on those little itty bitty babies.
So, so yeah, but thankfully she didn't have to do the warmer. And with my son being at home, like I was so desperate to get home to him.
Yeah.
So we had requested a 24-hour checkout.
Mhm.
So we were able to go home the next evening,
Yeah.
which was nice.
And how was your recovery with her versus your hard recovery with your son?
Okay, so immediately after she was born, like my placenta took a while to be
Okay.
delivered. So they were having to, work on that. And then I had some hemorrhaging.
Mm.
So they were like really, I don't remember what it's called, but like
Massaging?
pushing, yeah, the
Mhm.
fundal massage.
Yeah.
They had some pretty I couldn't feel any of that with my
Mhm. Right,
first,
right.
and it was, like, more painful than I
It's
had
really uncomfortable.
expected,
Mhm.
and they were doing that pretty regularly to try to get the bleeding,
Mm. To get your uterus
caught
to
up.
contract.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but then after that, I immediately felt different. Like, I felt like I could walk to the bathroom,
Yeah.
like, almost right away,
Mhm.
which was wild.
Yeah.
It had taken me so long to feel like I could be on my feet after my
Mhm.
first delivery. So, she's 10 weeks old today,
Wow.
and I mean, I don't know if it's the length of the labor or, like, the epidural that was
Or the length
a
of the pushing.
pitocin, the length of the pushing, but
Mhm.
the recovery has been just completely night and day.
That's great.
Like, I know I wasn't supposed to pick up very many, but I could pick up my toddler,
Yeah.
relatively early on,
Mhm.
get around the house, no problem. Like,
Yeah.
it was just I didn't know it could be like that.
Yeah. So it's been better.
It's been so much better, yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, and so have you gotten back on the literal horse since she was
Oh,
born?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I have been riding, and that also has, like, been easier and smoother this go around.
Oh, good. Well, before you go, I like to always ask for you to describe birth in 3 words, whatever comes to mind.
Okay, let's see. I think for my description of birth in 3 words, I'd have to definitely say trust
Mm.
and surrender
Mhm.
and awareness.
Mm.
Like, having awareness of what's happening, but being able to, like, trust the process.
Mhm.
Let your body surrender to it.
I love that. Mm. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This has been so fun.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Well, you've been listening to the Arrivals podcast. I'm your host, Merelise Wilson. Until next time.